young girls who see themselves in the players on the court. This is not just a ball game. This is inspiration.
I'm just here to say that jokes are funny, people. Dave Chappelle, funny guy. I love Dave.
As we head into these winter months, we know we cannot be complacent. So right now we are going to continue to recommend masks in all schools for all people in those schools. And we will look forward to scaling up pediatric vaccination during this period of time.
You remind me of Eddie Haskell, you know, the guy.
The most dishonorable member of the Leave It to Beaver cast.
Yeah,
I'll take it, Charles. I like Eddie.
Calling Alfredo from The Godfather.
That's right. That's right. Calling me Eddie Haskell is better than calling me Fredo from The Godfather. That, before 5 minutes ago, that was my favorite part of the day today. And then we saw, okay, I don't care. I can only talk about Vito. I'm sorry. So, as you guys know, there was a big protest, a Netflix protest by all the LGBT employees and others who are mad because Dave Chappelle said jokes, and it includes references to gay people and trans. You're not allowed to joke. They're not allowed to be joked about. So there was a big rally today in L.A., and then this viral video has come out now showing this guy, a big guy, holding a sign saying, I like Dave. Or we like Dave. We like Dave. We like Dave, about Dave Chappelle. And I think the other side might say, I like jokes or something like that.
Jokes are funny.
It's something very anodyne. It's something that nobody gets hurt. So anyway, if you've seen the video, I will go through it right here. Here's him. He's walking through there with his sign. He's not being aggressive at all. He's just a big guy just kind of walking through saying, I like Dave, I like jokes. But they are all around him. They are surrounding him. At one point, that's him. That's Vito. At one point, Vito, with the I Like Dave placard, a big brutish guy next to him rips his sign from him, casts it to the ground. It's on a stick, by the way, the sign, and stomps it. And he's just kind of taking it all in stride, being having good humor about the whole thing. Don't have... So now that's somebody literally screaming, he's got a weapon, because they ripped his sign off of his stick and he was still holding the stick, and the angry trans protesters called him out and said he's got a weapon in a very professional protester kind of way. He had the stick previously, it just had a sign on it. They ripped the sign off. He's just holding his stick like you'd hold a staff. There's no weapon. And they are unbelievably now all yelling, he's got a weapon! He's got a weapon!
He's got a weapon! He's got a weapon! Oh, you want me to drop my weapon? Yes. Get in the... There's my...
So he throws his weapon to the ground now.
Yep, he dropped his weapon. He's been disarmed.
Yes, they're all over him.
I'm not discussing anything.
Then this woman comes up to him. They've all lost their minds. These are crazy zombified people. They've all lost their mind. Then this person, I cannot identify anything more than this is a person, I believe, comes up to him in his face, shaking a tambourine and saying he needs to repent.
I'm just here to say that jokes are funny, people. Dave Chappelle, funny guy.
I'm just here to say jokes are funny. Dave Chappelle's a funny guy. This angry being is in front of him saying, repent, MFer, repent, MFer. And she gets more and more frenzied.
I love Dave. I don't know why all the violence. I don't know why the hate. I just love Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle.
You hear this person? The more he says the name, the crazier they get. Listen. He's joking then laughing, I want my stick, because they took his stick from him because it was a dangerous weapon. This guy does this whole thing with humor, shows a contrast between somebody who's reasonable, saying something normal, like, I like Dave.
And jokes are funny.
Yes, exactly, to these rabid crazies.
My side, I need my postal board.
$2.99.
What is that little guy doing?
It's only him and one other guy. His guy does host a podcast with him, and so here's another part, just some more some audio for you guys of him talking. Another part of the protest.
I like Dave. I like Dave. I like him. I like his joke.
He likes Dave.
I'm in charge of the protest now. I'm in charge.
Then Black Lives Matter comes.
Black Lives Matter.
He joins right in.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
So anyway, this guy just made my day, and Alice too. You sent me this stuff, and I just made our day. And I was scrolling through a bunch of his videos, a bunch of videos of him, etc., and bumped into he retweeted something. The actual man himself. His name is Vito Gesualdi. How did he say it? It is
Gesualdi. Yeah.
Gesualdi. That's on Twitter at Vito Gesualdi. He's got all sorts of stuff. He's a comedian. He's on Patreon as the Vito Show. The podcast is called The BiggestProblem.Show. He's got YouTube stuff. Just find him on at Vito Gesualdi or youtube.com/Vito.
I actually followed him before, and I didn't connect
You've
with
been
him
very eager
until
to say this.
I know.
Yes,
I was excited because then I went to look for his account. I was like, oh, I already follow him. Look at that.
So okay.
I didn't recognize him because his avatar is a cartoon, so I didn't know it was the same person because I just assumed that people look like their avatar.
There you go. Alice is very cool, if you guys didn't know. She was in the ground floor of Loving Vito before I did. Anyway, I messaged him and said, hey, we're about to record the podcast. Will you come on? And he said, absolutely sure. I can't believe this. This guy is so great. I get the feeling that he's going to be a big deal very soon. I think that he'll be doing the circuit. Anyway, so we just spoke to him. He was a hell of a guy, so I'm just gonna throw to it.
Yes.
Okay. We just spoke to him. Got off the Zoom meeting with him, I guess, just a couple of minutes ago, and he was as funny as could be, as pleasant as I could be. Just a hell of a guy. This guy has saved it, made our day. Here is Vito Gesualdi. All right, I don't know if I've ever been so thrilled to talk to somebody before. We've talked to all sorts of people, newsmakers, etc.
Yeah.
Vito Gesualdi has changed the direction of my day, and I get the feeling, Vito, the direction of your life may be changed. What a day you had.
It really could not have gone, I don't know, better or worse. It's a day of changes for all of us, I guess.
So
the way to put it.
As we've been talking about, Netflix had their big walkout today, the employee out and walkout. They're mad that Dave Chappelle told jokes. And so
yes,
they had a big gathering in LA somewhere. And Vito, what made you decide to go?
Well, I had heard about the protest. I'm a comedian. I'm a guy, I make my life from jokes on the internet, whatever I do. And when I see a bunch of people who go, we're going to take one of the greatest comedians of all time and try to tear him down for doing what a comedian does, telling jokes, I get a little worried because I go, look, Chappelle's got enough money to ride through any wave he wants. But if they can cancel that guy, I'm next. Okay, I'm next in line. So I said, I love comedy. I mean, and I have nothing against these communities who say they're being trampled on, but I also think you got to take a joke. So I called up a buddy. I said, listen, we got to go to this protest. We got to show our support for Dave. And we weren't hateful about it. We said, let's make some signs. And our signs said, we like jokes. We like Dave. Jokes are funny, and Dave is funny. We thought those were very simple, neat little messages of support and love. And unfortunately, people did not agree. People were very mad at us.
Apparently, if you carry a sign that says, I like Dave, you have to repent, MFer. That's what I learned today.
There was a lot of yelling. Repent was a phrase that was yelled in my face by a lady with a tambourine. And I don't know what she wants me to repent for. I didn't do anything. If anything, Dave should repent, but I don't even think Dave should repent. All right, repent. I'm just here. I got a sign that says I like Dave. I mean,
so we're talking to
that's so wrong.
Vito Gesualdi. He's the guy who had this sign, who later had a dangerous weapon. We'll get there in a second. Follow him at Vito Gesualdi, VitoGesualdi. Also, youtube.com/Vito, the biggest show, BiggestProblem.Show on Patreon.
Yeah, Biggest Problem Podcast, and youtube.com/Vito is probably the easiest places to find me.
You got so much going on. That's great. Okay, so you get there, and one of the things I notice about you is that you're saying very basic things like, I like jokes, I like comedy, I like things like that. It's never... there was no incitement, comedy over trans rights. All it was...
No.
They were messages of love and acceptance just for comedians.
I mean, they wanted to have their little meeting where nobody showed up to show support for Dave, and they had their little quiet. And I'm like, listen, man, we're not going to be quiet about it. We like jokes. We like Dave. All right, there's a different side of this story that you have to acknowledge. That people love comedy. Comedy brings us together.
Yes.
And you can't just expect us all to stand by and go, no, it's fine. Delete, get rid of all the comedy. It's fine. We'll just stand here and clap. And no, we're going to get a little, hey, we like jokes. Jokes are, we were pretty respectful. I thought. I don't think we deserved what we got in return, which was a little violent, a little out of control.
How many of you went down there?
A little much.
How many of you went down there together?
It was just me and my co-host from the Biggest Problem podcast, my good friend Dick Masterson. Called him up the night before, and I'm like, we should go to this protest. And then we drove. We made little signs, had a little arts and crafts project in the Target parking lot. And we showed up with our little crafts project. People did not like our signs.
Now,
I don't know what we did. We're trying to get people to laugh.
So these signs were made with your own money too, correct? You didn't.
That's the
You're
thing,
not an
yes.
AstroTurf movement where Dave Chappelle bankrolled some fancy signs or something.
Dave Chappelle protest buses rolling up. And if there is, I want in on that check because I didn't get one. No, I'm out the, what do you call it? I spent like $30 at Target. I got the good markers, You ever buy one of those big Sharpies? They're like $3. So,
So at some point, a Black Lives Matter protester comes in, kind of joins you. Is that what happened? And then you joined in with a Black Lives Matter chant.
Oh, that's the other thing is, we're yelling. We love jokes. Jokes are great. I'm up, holding my sign.
Yeah.
And she jumps up and she goes, Black Lives Matter. I'm like, you're absolutely right. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Me and Dick, here's the other thing. Everybody assumes we're some like raging, angry, whatever. Dude, we went out for the Black Lives Matter protests. We were live streaming them. Dick got shot by a rubber bullet, man. So we took one for the team. Oh, yeah. He was complaining about it. He kept it as a souvenir. He's like, look, I took one for the cause. I'm like, hey, where'd it go, brother? So he's more of a conservative. He's a Trump guy, but I'm a Biden voting liberal. When we're, both sides of this issue, we go, I don't know, man, they're just jokes. We're just trying to have fun. So don't assume that this is some sort of hate monger, whatever thing, that we're just out there to take people's rights away. It could be further from the truth. When she starts yelling Black Lives Matter, I'm with her. I'm like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. Of course they do. But trans lives matter. They all matter, of course. I have nothing against any of them.
Only in 2021 can I like jokes make you a Proud Boy white supremacist. It doesn't matter. And so is Chappelle now, too, as a matter of fact. I think.
Dude, I'm pretty sure. I'm like, they're gonna make hashtag we love jokes. They're gonna say that's hate speech right there. Like it's coming. I see right now people are tweeting we like Dave, hashtag we like Dave, which is one part of our sign.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, they're gonna shut that down. That's gonna be the new phrase you can't say.
Yes,
it's code, a dog whistle.
Yes, it's a racist
it's a dog whistle. Of course it is.
So
we only communicated secret messages, us hate mongers.
So
we always got little codes and decoder rings.
So at one point, some big cretin grabs your hate sign from you. And stomps on it. At any point, did he say anything to you other than calling you an a-hole? At any point, did he communicate?
Everyone was yelling at me. Yeah. I don't know exactly who was saying what. I'm just kind of... let's put it this way. I've been to protests before. I actually have a protest video. Do you remember when Kendall Jenner did that Pepsi ad where she brought Pepsi to a protest? So I made a video. Maybe you forgot about it, but basically she gives a Pepsi to a cop and the whole protest. It's like, oh, there's peace and love between all of us.
Well, it was very
and
controversial.
I made a video where I was like, well, what would happen if you brought Pepsi to a protest? And the answer is Antifa just starts throwing it at people.
Oh, of course.
So it did not work the way it did in the commercial. So I'm like, look, Antifa's there, or whoever, whatever side it is, sometimes people get a little carried away and start breaking your stuff. And you got to go, all right, it's just a sign. I'm going to step back. Clearly there's some emotions here. And he ripped the sign out of my hands. He snapped it in half, left me standing with a broken stick, which, as I'm sure you enjoyed the next part there, where they go, I'm holding the leftover part of my sign that they have snapped in half, and they go, look, he's got a weapon. He's got a weapon. And I went along with it. I'm like, he's got a weapon. What are you talking about? I have half a sign.
And then I'm
not a violent person.
Then they demanded that you drop the weapon, which you did.
I asked. They said, drop your weapon. I said, would you like me to drop my weapon? Which is a dowel, a wooden
It was
dowel
a sign
from Home
until
Depot.
they got done with it.
No, and I wasn't swinging it around or anything. I went along with it. I'm like, okay,
but
if that's going to make you guys happy, I will drop my broken stick off to the side. There's no more violence.
Did you notice, or watching it subsequently, did you notice that, like, they said weapon like a way that you're trained to say it in protests? Like they were all
they
very
wanted
good at
a cop to roll up and shoot me in the face.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody get down. He's got a stick.
Yeah. He's got a weapon. He's got a weapon. They were hoping that a security guard was around and would go, well, I hear that trigger phrase and that guy's dead. As people have pointed out, I mean, if you reverse this situation and, you had, I don't know, a black gentleman, a trans gentleman, and somebody's broke their sign and everybody goes, she's got a weapon. He's got a weapon. Oh, my God. Would that be on the national news circuit? You're trying to get a guy killed, theoretically. Am I wrong?
So, I mean, you said you do comedy and you've got a show, so you're out there publicly. And I assume you've dealt with less than stellar crowds. I don't know if you've dealt with this before, but at any time are you nervous, especially when that person was saying repent MFer and like in your face with a tambourine?
I get nervous when the violence starts getting I get nervous I've seen videos of guys, will run up behind you, will knock you on your feet.
Yeah.
My buddy Dick, I mean, there's no video of it right now. We actually have a guy who thankfully recorded it. He got knocked to the pavement. He cracked his head on the pavement.
No.
He was holding his sign. Somebody came in, knocked his feet out from under him. He hit his head hard.
Ouch.
To the point where I was like, dude, do we got to go? He's like, if I have a concussion, I'll figure it out in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh.
So, yeah, we did. At that point, we're a little bit worried. Like, me and him are watching each other's back at this point, and he's a bigger guy. Yeah. Thankfully, that guy works out. I'm like, all right, well, you're supposed to have my back. You're not supposed to be the one falling down. So, yeah, you do get nervous in terms of there's some guys who, you think there's rules to a protest. Like, hey, man, we all have free speech. We're all making ourselves heard. And there's a line we don't cross where we don't assault each other. But, yeah, he got assaulted on the way out. I mean, Antifa chased us a little bit. We were like, I don't know what these guys want. Let's just get in the car. They're running towards us. I'm like, let's just go. You get a little bit nervous. And I've encountered, Antifa throwing stuff at me, push. At one point, I had a little outfit in one of my videos where I was selling peanuts at an Antifa rally. And they ripped the little American flags off my costume and set them on fire in front of me. And I'm like, oh, fire has entered into this now. That's fun. That's not scary at all.
That's anti-fascist.
They're intimidating me with fire.
Yes.
Holy Lord.
It's absolutely anti-fascist, yes.
Yeah, but they're the good guys, right? Because they're called anti-fascists. I get it. Okay.
I think one of the things that really resonated watching this today, Vito, is that you just kept such good humor. You're obviously not an agitator. You're not a guy who goes and F's with people, it seems. You had such good humor when you when you finished saying they took my stick. They took my stick.
You really have to put things in perspective. I mean, if you lose your mind, if you start yelling, I mean, let's be honest, I'm a comedian. I'm there to be funny. If I start, yelling, you took my sign and fighting with them, there's no joke. The joke is on them. No. I mean, I hate to say it, but when you rip my stick out of my hands and start breaking it, I go, I could not ask you for better footage, sir. I could not pay you money to get footage this good of a guy going, I like jokes, and you're so mad that you start breaking his things in front of him and trying to get him shot for holding a weapon. So I have to go into it and I have to go, listen, man, I'm just here to get some footage. I have a YouTube channel. It's kind of funny. Okay, I support Dave Chappelle. We're having a little, a little bit of free speech argument, whatever. But yeah, you gotta not let it get to you. You can't get, I don't know. I mean, clearly they're very emotionally invested in this issue. And of course, my opinion is, guys, it's jokes. You got to let some of this stuff go. Again, you're out here fighting, breaking stuff, trying to start physical altercations because of a comedy special. Do you understand how ridiculous that is?
Right. And
so, yeah.
And also, you can tell because they, to me, look like absolutely angry psychotics. And you could look at them and you say, wait a second, these aren't the kind of people who can measure comedy. These are humorless, angry people.
Comedy's been on a weird decline, and you meet a lot of guys in comedy, especially in LA, who I don't know the best way to say it, checked all the right boxes, fit into a certain demographic of what they were looking to hire and the stories they wanted to tell. And I'm out here, a loud Italian fat guy who, I don't know, I'm not the most politically correct guy out here, but I like to think that the comedy I make is pretty funny. So that's kind of the ideological divide, is you have these guys who are working for Netflix who, I don't know, maybe they're the greatest writers in the world.
Right.
Or maybe they got hired because, again, we got to hire a couple of these guys, a couple of these guys, whatever else. And they see me and they're like, another one of these big fat white. We got enough fat white guys working in Hollywood making our comedy. I hate this guy. I don't know. I think I represent everything they don't like. And I hate that. I like Netflix. I have a Netflix subscription. I would love for them to give me a job. I got some great projects for them, but I understand that I'm not the hiring demographic these days. So what can I do? I make comedy on the internet. It works for me.
Are you afraid, or do you expect these guys to show up at gigs?
We'll see. I don't know if they're that organized. We'll see. I mean, it really depends on whether or not. Here's the thing. If they show up at gigs, it's like I always say, I'm like, who looks better in a situation? The dumb fat man or the guys yelling at the dumb fat man? Like, I'm just an idiot. If you come by and yell at me, I'm going to go, yeah, okay. Like, you're going to look like the idiot. Because I'm just here like, I don't know nothing about nothing. Like, that's what all my videos are. It's like, once you start screaming at a guy who shows up and looks like a clueless moron, like, you're the bad guy in that situation. So I welcome it. Antifa, come on along. Interrupt my set. I'll just stand there. I don't know. I'll apologize. I'm sorry. I don't know what I did. I'm sorry. I just like jokes. I just like Dave.
Hey, Vito, I got to thank you so much for coming on, man. I'm thrilled. I can't. Don't forget us, by the way. Once you go on with Gutfeld and Tucker and
we'll see
around the world,
if they'll have me.
Remember us on the East Coast, Vito. The little guys as well.
Solidarity, East Coast. I'm from Massachusetts.
You are. That's where we are.
That's where we are.
Where are you guys in Massachusetts?
We're near Newburyport. Where are you from?
Amherst.
Oh.
The liberal hellhole of the world.
You're not welcome back there anymore.
No, I'm not. Boy, they kicked me out of that town a while ago, and I ain't going back. I tell you what.
Awesome. Congrats, man. Best to you and your partner, too.
Absolutely. Again, BiggestProblem.Show. Check out our podcast, and you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Vito.
Here. So there you go. There's the man. I think it's awesome that he joined us.
I think it's fantastic. I'm so thrilled. He was so funny and cool and just totally normal. Because you always get nervous when a video of somebody goes viral, that when you find out who it is, it's going to be like a crazy person. Like the internet milkshake duck phenomenon, where like somebody goes viral and then it turns out they've been like making terrible racist comments on Reddit or something, like there's a problem with them once they've surfaced. But no, he's fantastic. He was so normal, so cool, so funny. I really enjoyed talking to him.
So I think that this to me is I don't know if it's a watershed moment anymore, because you never know, because nothing ever turns off. There's always new content cycling around the world. But the visuals of him there with good humor, not being hateful, not shouting. I mean, not shouting. He was joyfully declaring, I guess, that he likes things, and then being set upon by these miserable people. It makes me think a couple things. One, I guess I kind of said this to him, but what the hell are these people doing anywhere near comedy and content that's supposed to be funny? Like, they are miserable. They should, hopefully they're not anywhere, they can't be in anything creative. There's no way. You can't be that horribly miserable. You can't find a sign that says, I like Dave, and need to force it from a guy with your brute strength.
Yeah, but I don't know if the people that had the actual confrontation with him were actually Netflix employees or if they were like just other people, because like I don't know, the AFL-CIO put out the bat signal too. The president said, sending support to Netflix employees, especially those in the trans resources group, walking out today for human rights, dignity, and respect on the job. It's time for Netflix to listen to its LGBTQ plus employees and live up to its standards of radical transparency. So like the unions put out stuff. I'm sure all the like different groups did. They put out like with the date and time when to show up. The AFL-CIO did. So like everybody, I'm sure there were all kinds of people there. I don't know if it was actually all Netflix employees.
But this is really forcing. Yes. Hold on. Can you fill for a second?
Sure. So, I mean, like all these things, they try and like mush them together into one issue. And so you saw that in our conversation with him too, how he's saying like, I'm a liberal. I just like don't want to see Dave Chappelle get banned. I'm a fan of comedy. I don't think political correctness like belongs in the liberal movement. But the way that, you know, the way that they build their coalition is they lump everything together. Like trans rights and racial equality and, you know, the AFL-CIO for some reason, most of whose members probably like Dave Chappelle and think he's funny, you know, like but that's like what the left does is they like put together all these disparate groups with like very different priorities. So you see somebody like a Joe Manchin who's part of a Democratic Party that, you know, doesn't share priorities with a lot of his party mates in Congress, you know, and it's causing them issues that they've tried to glue together groups that don't work together. But
it also, and this is the silver lining, I think, of all of this that's been happening, there's these free speech people, these anti-speech people.
Right.
Is that it's put us and Vito, who are probably, if he's a liberal, we're probably, you know, a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And Dave Chappelle, who politically I think I've been very different than.
Although you both liked Andrew Yang, so.
Oh, did he like Yang too?
Yeah, he did phone calls for Yang.
Well, Yang is the epitome, actually. Mm-hmm. There's the epitome of, we're creating groups of people who otherwise wouldn't have probably hung out, known, and talked.
Right.
You know, and in this case, talking to Vito, we just want to hear comedians because laughing is healthy and fun. And we want them to be able to do their thing. And Vito's a comedian. And, you know, it's very simple. This is a brotherhood and sisterhood of a very simple, unique principle. And that is free speech is good. That's it. And you don't bully people, shut them down, or ban them, or ruin their livelihoods because you've decided that free speech is literal,
is actually
harm.
killing trans people
or whatever, or whatever people. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, I last year at this time, if you had told me that in the time of trying to amplify black voices, we were a huge mob of mostly white people were demanding that somebody's work product, their voice and their creation be stifled, then I would say that would have been considered problematic last year. But but somehow we've out intersectionality'd. They've lost all his intersectionality points because the trans people are more victimized by speech than black people and the legacy of all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, okay. I mean,
yeah, it's not allowed. We can't have anything that's, you know, just, we can't say we want more black voices if the black voices aren't going to say what we want them to say and follow our talking points that we need them to talk. And I mean, there's the people that have been mad about Dave Chappelle, most of them aren't very funny. Like Hannah Gadsby's been really mad about the Dave Chappelle special.
Right, she's not funny. She's not. She's a morose TED talker. All right, so should we do some housekeeping? Get to the other stuff too, or is that
Yeah, let's do a couple things.
okay? So also, Alex,
Happy International Pronouns Day, by the way.
Oh, that's right. The Secretary of State tweeted that out. Just so you know, the world is that we're really serious as a country now. That our government is serious.
Yep, the State Department tweeted out today, on International Pronouns Day, we share why many people list pronouns on their email and social media profiles. Read more here. And they tweeted us a link, a government website link about how we should put our pronouns on our social media. It's becoming increasingly common for people to share their pronouns. These pronouns include gender-neutral they, them, theirs, words that traditionally refer to a plural number but today are used by some individuals who identify as gender non-binary or prefer not to share gender information. Other pronouns include feminine she, her, hers, and masculine he, him, his. I think those ones most of us are familiar with. Some people are pioneering gender-neutral pronouns such as ze, zer, and zers.
Good. Thank goodness. Thank you, Tony Blinken. Thank you. Good to see you're on the job.
So that's good. I'm glad they're doing that while China's testing their
once again,
super
it goes
nuclear
back
weapons
to
or whatever.
That's the lesson, right? Is that the symbolism is the priority with this administration.
Mm-hmm.
All firsts in all symbolic gestures, and the world. That's insane. There's no such thing as pronouns. This
Well,
is
there are
crazy
pronouns.
talks. That's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the idea that we should all put it on our emails is insane behavior.
Well, certainly, but for the Secretary of State, that's supposedly an important job. But for this to be such a priority, this is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Nuts. For us to be declaring, the HHS declaring that Rachel Levine is the first woman of that job to get the job, this is psychotic behavior. Psychotic. There have to be Democrats who know this, who are in there saying, wait a second.
And it's not a viewpoint that's compatible with other people's lives, right? Like, because, I mean, like, I guess we can call Rachel Levine the first woman 4-star admiral or whatever we're calling Rachel Levine, but, like, in sports, it matters. In the MMA, it matters. People don't want to be beat up. Women don't want to get beat up by men. Women don't want to be beat by men in sports. You know, women don't want to be photographed by men in bathrooms. And even something as little as the pronouns, like, oh, it's offensive to them if we don't all put pronouns in our email signature. Well, it's offensive to me, the idea that I have to tell you that I'm a she because you can't tell. I'm sorry, is that not offensive? Because I remember the first time I had a conversation like that. I mean, I have lots of super liberal friends, but so that I was aware of this pronoun stuff for a long time, and somebody who's a righty once asked me well, what are you supposed to say if you're genuinely not sure if someone's a man or a woman? What are you supposed to ask? And I said, you're supposed to ask them what pronouns they use. What are their preferred pronouns? Or actually, now you're not even supposed to say preferred because that implies that it's a preference and not written in stone. But you're supposed to ask them what their pronouns are, and that's not offensive. And they were well, but if I'm just a guy and somebody asked me what my pronouns are, I would be pretty offended. I mean, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. If you were somewhere, especially before all this stuff happened, if you were at a job fair and they were and what are your pronouns? Implying that they can't tell. Isn't that rude to people who believe that they can be identified as one of the two main genders?
Yes, of course.
So it's it's somebody asking me to identify my pronouns is offensive to me. So you can tell me that we should just all do it and normalize it all day long. But that's offensive to other people, so you're not going to win. If you want to go around saying what your pronouns are, that's fine with me, but don't expect me to do it. That's crazy. But we already know people. Someone had been telling us that, his job's HR had emailed everyone to suggest that they start to put pronouns in their email signatures, just as a matter of whatever, showing solidarity or making it convenient, making the trans people not stick out, because that's really the idea, is they don't want people to be able to tell who's trans and who's not, because they have a constant fear that people can tell that they're a trans person.
And then they'll want to kill them.
Well, yeah. And just, their general insecurities and stuff. I mean, because this is like a mental disorder, right? Like, so like, look at the drive-through trans person who like got in the fight. I forget, the Sonic drive-through, right? So she's in the drive-through, like, she created a whole problem and issue because she was freaking out that somebody would think she was trans. Like, how did you know I was a man? Like, it could have been somebody else's card. What do you know? Could have been somebody sitting in the back seat whose card it was. I could have stolen the card. You don't know. Like, but they're upset and worried and concerned that people might think that they're, you know, a trans person. So they want everybody to be doing pronouns in the email signature to like throw people off, you know, because then you can like it's not enough for them to be able to let you know what pronouns they want to be referred to as. They want everybody to also do that so that nobody can guess who's trans and who's not. Right.
All right, Alice, you did a good job of protecting free speech and wanting to preserve the work of a very talented artist in this country.
I did.
Now it's time for you to repeat what you said earlier as you were laughing, going scorched earth on members of the WNBA. Alice, you sent me the video of the parade. You know, they're the champions, the Chicago Fire.
It was a very nice parade.
Chicago, I think are they the Chicago Fire? Maybe that's the football team.
That sounds right.
The soccer team.
It was in Chicago Sky, maybe?
Yeah. Anyway, they're the champions of the WNBA. And they dared to enjoy their championship, and there was a loving news wrap on their championship.
I'm excited for Chicago. Really excited for Chicago.
Chicago Sky.
Why? A little bit because women come so far. They work so hard. They put in sweat, blood, and tears just like the men do. But you know what? The women had to carry Chicago this time, baby.
And for the women in sports, who plays basketball?
These women are playing their butts off and inspiring and empowering, the next generation. So this is awesome.
For young girls who see themselves in the players on the court, this is not just a ball game. This is inspiration.
Being from Chicago, seeing them win just puts a lot of confidence in the city and definitely in me because this is something I want to be when I grow up.
So we're going to see you out there one day?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. What's your problem, bully?
I am a bully, I guess. So anyway, well, first of all, there's all these videos of the crowds for the whatever, like, they're not duck boats, right? In those
no, they're double-decker
boat
buses.
Things or bus things.
Yeah.
For the parade. And the throngs lining the street were, I would say,
non-existent.
They were sparse. Maybe it's cold out there or something.
To be honest, for Michigan Avenue on a weekday, it actually was like less busy than
People
usual.
fled.
Yeah.
It was really, really empty. So, but that's cool. We can all like pretend that they're in a big parade. And there were actually a bunch of people in Millennium Park, but I think that's because they're like Chance the Rapper was there for the rally and stuff. So there were some other draws going on. But like, so I just thought it was interesting, like these little news wraps where they're asking like the man on the street questions. Cause I mean, so we've had a few championship parades here in Boston, and usually like when the reporters are out there talking to the people in the crowds, like, what kinds of questions do they normally ask them?
They ask him, what did you think of the win this year? How's it?
Who's your favorite player?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Everybody's so drunk usually. It doesn't do much.
They're not saying. But I guess what I found so striking is, like, the complete, like, just condescension about the women's team. They're like, wow, it's so empowering. Look at the little girls can see girls win too. It's amazing. Like, just the way they asked the question and the way that the people answered the questions absolutely to me demonstrates that everybody thinks this is like a participation trophy, like just runner-up prize, the whole WNBA thing. Because if you would never ask kids a question like that, like, is it inspiring for you to see women win too? Women play just as hard as boys. Like, what? I mean, you wouldn't ask people questions like that about the Patriots. Did Tom Brady try really hard? Like, it's so like, it's just infantilizing and weird. I found it weird, and I found it like the same, like I've talked on this show before about how I find the whole like girl power feminist stuff that they sell to girls, like the girls rule the world and like girls can be anything, like t-shirts. Like, you only make a t-shirt like that if you don't really think it's true. Like, you only ask people questions like that. Like, you would never go to a Patriots championship parade and be like, do they play just as hard as the Red Sox do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't ask them if they work as hard as somebody else. It's weird.
Well, maybe
do women play just as hard as men?
Maybe the suggestion is that they have been kept from being just as good as all the men for so long.
Mm-hmm. But they played other women's teams to get the championship.
Yes.
So it's not like, you know, they've been playing men's teams and they kept losing and now they've finally beat all the men. So it's like women's moment in the sun. Like, they're just the best of the women's team. A boys' high school basketball team would beat them. Like, no, really. And I mean, they're going to, because there's now going to be trans women playing basketball. So I guess we're not going to, the WNBA is going to be just as good as the NBA soon. So I guess, you know.
Actually, depending on the money, the WNBA could be much bigger than the NBA. Actually, I guess it matters where China is on this subject. I don't know that they're going to be cool with trans players. So the other thing that happened, so you're hating on women. You know what? I think I don't agree. I thought I heard expressed, and so fine. Maybe she's not fully enlightened, the woman who's excited about the team, whatever. And she's bought into this construct of this being a feminist victory and new milestones, whatever. But
do you think people really went out to see the WNBA championship parade? Or, like, do you think these are just random people that were, like, leaving a store on Michigan Avenue and they were like, so you're here for the parade. What did you think? And the person's like, am I going to be on TV? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, wow, I think it's great we won the championship. It's awesome. It's an inspiration to girls everywhere.
It's funny you say that. Because, you know, obviously the city had to play along and say, oh, okay, yeah, let's fill out a permit.
Yeah, Lori Lightfoot was there and the governor.
Yeah, they fill out a permit. Yeah. And we'll pretend that you're having a parade rather than two chartered buses driving. So they had to play along, you know, and Lori Lightfoot, of course, she's running.
They probably didn't even have to close the streets.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that, you know, if the Bulls had won, then there would have been all of these fences and gates put up, etc., and all sorts of things so to keep the crowds out. I wonder if they struggled and said, should we put the real championship winning stuff out so it seems like this is a real parade? Or will that draw attention to the fact that nobody's here? I don't know.
Tough day.
I don't know, but you're the hater.
I'm not a hater. I think they're odd questions.
I'd break your sign if you were down there.
I'm not protesting them. I just think it's like everybody has a very odd and demeaning. I think their way of talking about it is more demeaning than me being like, it's okay. The WNBA just isn't as good as NBA. Oh, well, like, that's fine. We also have college basketball isn't as good as the NBA. Or, you know, so, like, that's okay.
As long as we have Vito.
I like Dave. I like Dave. I like him. I like his jokes. I'm in charge of the protest now. I'm in charge.
We'll always have Vito.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Oh, what a day, Alice! What a day! Don't you think?
I know.
The other thing that you heard that Rochelle Walensky said, regardless, once they get the vaccines out to the kids. And by the way, you should know, I watched way too much of this morning. That they're going to mandate vaccines for children, and they're going to use any connection to your child, our children as well, even though they're not in school anymore. They will use sports. They will use camp. They will use playgrounds, public areas, anything that our kids have to be aligned with or associated with, they will use to corner your kids and make sure they get vaccinated no matter what. These people are going to do it. We know they are. There's no doubt about that. So, but even so, with that, Walensky said that everybody's got to stay masked through the winter because we know that cases rise.
Oh, God.
So we know that's going to happen, and this is insanity. Insanity. These people are bleeping nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, what are they going to do if there stop being COVID cases?
Well, there's another variant. She mentioned the ANZ2.
The Delta subvariant.
Yeah, there's a Delta subvariant out there, so everybody's got to stay.
Well, there's no indications that it's any more virulent, and
as yet,
no indications of immune escape.
I think we need to take out of a
abundance of caution.
Yes, we have to make sure that we don't enjoy a mask.
Fauci also misled about a study today that you showed me, and you were like, "What study is he talking about?" So I looked it up, and it was also a trash study. So
there's a lot of trash happening, but you know who's not trash?
Vito.
Damn right.
Why don't you just marry Vito?
I might.
Anyway, you can find him on Twitter at Vito Gesualdi. You can find us on Twitter at Tom Shattuck and Alice Shattuck, or at Burn Barrel Pod. We're also at Facebook.com/Burn Barrel Podcast. You can email us, Cheryl. That's burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. Or we have a website, burnbarrelpodcast.com. Like Vito, we also have a YouTube channel, Tom Shattuck's Burn Barrel.
I like Dave.